Hey everybody, Kiji here. We have a lot more new information on Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 now, thanks to a Polygon interview and a new store listing that's popped up. So let's get into it. Let's see. Interview doesn't start until here. Okay. So this is a Polygon interview. For some insight into what else is new in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2, Polygon spoke with Fair Play Lab studio director Diego Rodriguez via email. Read on for our conversation. Okay, so the first questions they asked were, can you talk about what's new here from a core gameplay perspective? What do you think will surprise players about the change from Brawl to Brawl 2 in terms of updated mechanics? And their answer was, this is actually a difficult question to answer because this is an entirely new game. We've changed almost every aspect of Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 1 in small to big ways, and we hope all of them come as a good surprise for players, but to list a few of the changes, we've completely redone how movement works by changing to analog inputs compared to digital inputs from the first game, meaning things feel smoother and more responsive when moving around, which opens up a whole new world in terms of gameplay and strategy. I imagine analog inputs being in rather than digital inputs would also probably entail tap jump being a thing this time, or at least having an option for it, so that could be nice. We've also added more options like horizontal attacks, defensive rolls, and dodges. So horizontal attacks, I can only assume that does mean like side tilts, forward air, back air, side specials, that type of deal. Defensive rolls and dodges, okay. Not my favorite thing, but okay. We added something that is not very common to the platform fighters, a meter mechanic. This introduces a more in-depth system to the game in general. Using this meter can modify attacks, do ultimates, boost damage, slime cancel, and much more unique stuff. So it looks like this meter that you can build up throughout the match does a lot of different things, which is really cool. It kind of reminds me of the thing I brought up in my wishlist video, actually. I didn't expect they would actually do it, though. Finally, something that stands out compared to the first game is the character design. On NASB 2, we put a lot of effort into making each character feel unique so we can cater to different types of gameplay. So yeah, it's a lot of good info there. Any favorite supers you can share, just as a taste of what's to come? Honestly, all of the ultimate attacks are really cool. I really love Jimmy's and April's, but my favorite is Zim, just because I'm a huge Zim fan. Prepare for doom through the ultimate tool of destruction, Mini Moose. I hope everyone looks at the move of their favorite characters and thinks, wow, that's cool. So, Mini Moose, that's something I brought up as like a potential side special option for Zim, but it looks like it's going to be a super move for him, so that's really cool. I imagine it's going to be like a giant laser or something like that, or maybe Florpus related. What was your approach to selecting the roster this time? Any surprises you think fans won't expect? Anyone not returning from the first Brawl? This is probably one of the hardest decisions we made when we started to design the game. A lot of thought came into it. We looked a lot at the reaction on the roster of the first game, what were the more requested characters by the community, and also what we can achieve with the vast list of amazing Nick characters. And of course, we had Nick input as well. There were a lot of options and possibilities, but we had to choose, and we were very happy with the final roster. Surprises? Yes, the funny thing is that from all the list of possible characters the fans are making, none we have seen have guessed completely right. Just wait a bit and you will know who made it and who didn't. So a lot of people have taken this as potentially meaning that characters have been cut, but the more I think about this, the more I'm thinking that's actually not the case. Because not only do I think it's pretty unlikely that any character would be cut, but generally speaking, I just think this is more referring to the actual newcomer list. Like, it was difficult figuring out who they should add that's new to the game. They wanted to get a good mix of who they wanted, who the fans wanted, who would be a good picks, who would be unique picks. And then, of course, you have the notion of Nick having some hand in picking as well, or at least giving feedback on like, hey, maybe you should add this character, or you're adding this character, or something like that. What's your approach to implementing voiceover? Is it all original, or do you sample from Nickelodeon shows? All voiceover is recorded exclusively for the game. After the character is designed, animated, and integrated, we write down the script for every character. This script includes all moves, general feelings, responses, reactions, campaign, and single-player lines. We try to use lines from the shows or lines that we think that character could say. After our first pass of the script, a Nickelodeon writer double checks and adds more lines to the script. After Nickelodeon's approval, it goes into recording. So, yeah, about what you'd expect. They They get a lot of freedom, but they try to get creative with it while also calling back to the show as much as they can. Can you talk about the roguelike elements of the single-player campaign? Anything you can compare it to so folks have an idea of what to expect? I don't think we can directly compare it to anything that's out there, at least not that I know of. Of course, if you're familiar with roguelike games, you will understand right away how the campaign works, but we made quite a few adaptations so it could work with the platform fighter mechanic, since first and foremost, this is a platform fighter. I don't want to spoil it too much, but basically we have a main storyline and you start with SpongeBob. As you progress, you unlock characters which you can use in the campaign, and each character has his or her unique storylines. The structure is the same on roguelike games. You progress through a series of battles, and if you lose, you keep some of your progress, such as characters unlocked, currencies, etc., and use it to further your progress on your next try until you reach the end. And of course, in the middle, we have cool opponents, bosses, and other elements unique to the campaign. So, I don't know if anyone has ever played like Slay the Spire, but when I think roguelike, that's what I think, especially the way they're phrasing it here. You go through a series of bosses, and in between you have like little mini games or treasure rooms or a shop where you can get stuff, that kind of thing. And each time you're getting better and better and going further and further. So I think that's kind of what they're talking about here, and it sounds like the game's going to have a bunch of content if that's the case. One of the bigger complaints players had about NASP was the perceived value for the cost. Would you say you've taken that to heart for NASP 2? Is this a game you plan to support beyond the announced season pass? Absolutely. We put a lot of care into building a much bigger and more polished experience for NASP 2, and we hope players notice. There are quite a lot of changes and additions. For example, more costumes, better animations, better sound, VO at launch, better netcode, campaign, more gameplay modes, and more. But most of all, we hope players have fun playing the game and feel like they're getting a great value for it. All I can say right now is that we are very excited about the season pass. So, yes, they have definitely more and then some addressed the issue of perceived value of cost. But they did seem to kind of skirt around the question of, do you have plans to support the game beyond the season pass? So that's interesting. And the final thing to note in this interview is, what were some of the biggest lessons learned in developing the first Nickelodeon All Star Brawl and in seeing players' reactions to it? There were a lot of lessons from the first game. I think the most important one was to have voiceover at launch, which we do have this time around. But overall, we learned a lot and tried to apply as much as we could to NASP 2 to make it a great game, down to small gameplay changes, crossplay and online, and how we approach single-player content. Players' reactions to the first game was incredible. Seeing all the people hyped about the game and enjoying it so much on release was amazing. We're very happy with the reception and all the feedback we got on how to make the game better. So yeah, this is a very insightful interview. Definitely gave us a lot of good information on the game that we wasn't sure on before. We do have one other thing to go over real quick, and that is that the Best Buy listing for this game has finally popped up, and with it comes new information. So let's start with this generic description first. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 lets you duke it out with the biggest and best fighting character roster yet, including all new characters like SpongeBob SquarePants, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Squidward Tentacles, Jimmy Neutron, and more. Choose your favorite brawlers, master the unique movesets, and use all new powerful supers to land the finishing blow with friends or across a unique roguelike player campaign. And then we got the features. So this is where we see a bunch of new stuff. So, a totally new fighting experience. Redefine what a Nickelodeon fighting game can be with new and revamped visuals, audio, animations, modes, stages, mechanics, taunts, and movesets. Competitively tuned for all levels of play. New and improved brawlers. The roster is bigger and better than ever, with even more variety in how each unique character plays. Battle with brand new Nickelodeon fighters as well as returning fan favorites. Hit hard with supers. Power up your fighters with incredible new supers, which can yield devastating blows to opponents. Single player campaign. Put your skills to the test with roguelike elements as you fight to stop Danny Phantom arc villains Vlad Plasmius from taking over the Nickelodeon universe. Voice acting for all playable characters. Feel the energy and excitement of every attack with a fully voiced cast of fighters, including the talented Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerrake from SpongeBob. Minigame Mayhem is the main one here. Engage in all new minigames to play alone or with friends. Compete for global leaderboard high scores in Pinch the Blimps, Whack-A-Bot, and Urkin Armada Bootcamp Survival. Full cross-platform play, battle out with up to 4 players on any platform with seamless crossplay utilizing enhanced netcode for consoles and PC. So I want to talk about these minigames real quick. Oh man. So if I had to guess, if I'm thinking of comparing these modes to like a Smash type deal, I think Pinch the Blimps is probably going to be like a target test of some kind or something similar. Whackabot could be like multi-man melee. And then Urkin Armada Bootcamp Survival could be like endless melee or like an all-star mode or something like that. But I'm very excited to see what these are. It's possible that's also not what they are, but that's just my guesses. So yeah, we have a lot of new info on this game, and I'm very excited to see what else we hear about from it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 content. Stay tuned for the next video. And until then, peace.